Hey there, it's Renee, and I wanted to come to you today with a quick training video on how to critique your own work and write a story that shines, minus the overwhelm and perfectionism. So, I have been working with writers for a very long time, and one thing that happens is sometimes it can be really easy to get words on the page when you get a really good idea and you just get that burst of energy and you're able to write a ton of words on the page, but then maybe you've got like 10 pages, 50 pages, 100 pages of just raw writing. And then you're like, well, now what? What do I do now? And how do you know if that work is any good? How do you dig into it to revise? Because you probably know that revision is a huge part of the writing process. We don't just write something perfectly perfect and beautiful right from the get-go. We do have to look back at it and revise and make it really, really shine. So that's what this training is all about. So why am I able to teach you this? Well, I have a lot of experience with editing and revision. So way back in my college days, I was the editor of my campus literary magazine. That's where I really got a really good foundation for editing and revising and understanding what makes writing really good and really strong. And I was also a writing coach. And in 2011, I was the digital editor and then the editor-in-chief of Coastlines magazine. I was also a writing coach, and I was also teaching college freshmen, sophomores, and juniors composition and creative writing. And then between 2013 and 2018, I was a content creator, strategist, and managing editor of an award-winning health and wellness blog. And also one of my most proudest achievements, I was the blog editor for Ruminate magazine from 2014 to 2016. So I have got some high level editing chops. And I don't just tell you all of that to brag. I'm telling you that because I've had a lot of experience working with writers and helping them bring their stories to life and to make them really, really polished and make them shine. So, all right. So today I have for you a 3-step solution for self-critique and revision. So you can assess and edit your work like a boss without this heavy perfectionism, overwhelm, or dropping $3,000 or more hiring a developmental editor, which let me just say that hiring a developmental editor is a great idea, but you want to be able to get your writing to a place where it is so good on your own so that you've reached your ceiling of what you can do. So then you can really make that investment with a developmental editor really work because you've done all that work already. All right. So step one is to get clarity and confidence on the scope of your story. So look how happy she is because she is mapping out her story. She's getting crystal clear clarity and she knows exactly what she's going to do. And all right, let me move this down here. Okay, so the first step in you freeing yourself from overwhelm and writing work that you feel is really strong and you're really proud of is having a clearly defined scope for your story. So what does that look like? All right, so what I would love for you to do, so you could watch this video all the way through and then come back to these prompts, but absolutely do these prompts. You could do them in real time with me now, or you can watch it all the way through and then come back. Either way, be sure to bust out some pen and paper or a fresh Google Doc and write these prompts because you'll get so much clarity and you'll feel so much better about revising your work. So number one, the story, I want you to fill in these prompts, okay? This story is important to me because fill in the blank. Give yourself some space and time to write. I am writing this story because fill in the blank. Give yourself some space and time to write. So you could set a timer for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just a little chunk of time. Dive into this prompt now. All right, what is the significance? Same thing. We're going to go through quite a few writing prompts so you get a really crystal idea about the scope of your story because I can guarantee that is what's holding you back from revising is you don't have enough clarity. So what is the significance of this story for you? Is this story very close to your heart? Is it fascinating, but maybe not quite life-altering? Is it a quick fluff piece for joy and for fun? And all of these are totally okay. However, I will advise that unless a story is very, very close to your heart, you want to keep it short, right? So if you're planning to write a novel, it better be very close to your heart. But these other two B and C's, you can do really quick, 2,000 word pieces so that it's just for fun and it's short and you're not in it for the long game. But if you're writing something that's for the long game, A is where you want to be. and why. Why did you choose A, B, and C? So spend some time journaling on that now. All right, what is your story actually about? Go ahead, pause, and fill in these blanks now. Set a timer for 5 or 10 minutes, whatever feels good, and go ahead and go nuts. Your topic is, my premise is, my main character is, and go ahead and list their virtues and flaws. This is going to give you so much clarity. And a quick note, I know so many writers are like, I have like 5 main characters. You may have 5 characters that are really central to the story, but I guarantee you there is one character that shines above the rest. It's truly their story, even if there are other stories adjacent. So just pick that person that's like, this is the central person, and go ahead and do some brainstorming now. All right, what is your core message? What values are you trying to instill with a story? So go ahead, fill in these prompts as well. Go ahead and set your timer so you're not spending too much time. And what do you want your readers to walk away from feeling? What emotion? Do you want them to feel energized, excited, joyful, inspired? Do you want them to feel, it's okay if you want them to feel sad, if you want them to feel alive. All emotions are on the table, right? You can have them feeling angry. What do you want them to walk away feeling? And then what do you want to walk away feeling after you finish the story, after it's been revised, maybe it's been published? What do you want to walk away from this project feeling? All right, now we're really getting narrowed down. What this story is about, how many words long? So make a decision here, okay? So where you may just have a story idea now, but how long do you want this to be? How long does it need to be to serve the story and serve the reader and serve the message you want to tell? So I can't remember who said it, but they said there's no story that's too long, only too boring. So how can you make it just long enough so it's not too boring? And here you can set a little goal for yourself. I can revise or write blank words per day on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Saturday, Sunday, whenever you want to write, fill that in to complete the second draft of this story. So this means you probably have something already written. So go ahead and set a short goal for yourself. So I recommend 500 words. If you're very prolific, go ahead and bump it to 1,000 words, but 500 words I find is a good benchmark. All right, so what's your goal? You don't have to decide this now, but I do recommend kind of thinking with the end in mind. Where do you want to place this story? Where do you want it to be in a year or 6 months? What is the desired publication? Or if you're working on a full manuscript, a book, where do you want to publish that? Get an idea of that now so you can start really honing in on that story so that it's appropriate for that outlet. And again, there's no wrong answer here, but choose an appropriate outlet or publisher that feels within your reach, yet also beyond your comfort zone. So you can also come back to this later after you've done the other journaling prompts, but I do recommend you just, throw something out there. All right, so now that you've done those prompts, and it's okay if you've just watched this through, but do go back, set yourself a timer for each writing prompt, and definitely dive in. I guarantee the clarity you're gonna get is gonna motivate you so much. All right, step 2 to self-critique and revise your work is to captain your craft. Step into ownership of the craft of writing, and I'll explain what that means. So number one writing mistake that many writers make, which I talked about a little bit earlier, is that you start writing from scratch and then you just get completely lost because you have all this raw writing and the words just come out like poop, like this lady here where she's like, it's so bad. And it isn't living up to the idea in your head, so you just deflate and give up. However, this could happen for one of 3 reasons. Number one, you just don't have any idea how a good story actually works. You're not able to identify the moving pieces that make a story really good. Or maybe you do know how good stories work on a craft level, on a foundational level, but you're not actually leveraging that knowledge in your own writing. Or number 3, you're just overwhelmed and paralyzed by all the rules of writing. And you're like, why do I even bother? There's so many rules, right? I'm sure you can resonate with 1 or 3 of those reasons. But the truth is that great writers understand the elements of craft deep in their bones. They have a romantic relationship with the craft of writing, and they have a curious and playful relationship with their craft. It's the same reason, or the same theory with piano players, right? Piano players play their scales every single day, and they have a playful, fun relationship with the elements of music, right? So that is why I encourage you, step into the captain's position of your writing craft. Take ownership of it. Captain your craft. And that is going to help you create resonance. And so resonance is that feeling, whether it's you while you're writing or a reader reading your story. Resonance is that feeling when a story rings and sings out to you. You're moved to tears. You feel it in your soul or your bones. You're moved to tears or laughter because everything just fits together and resolves perfectly. You have a deep sense of satisfaction. Have you ever had that feeling when you close a book and you're like, oh, I'm so satisfied right now, and your soul is stirred, right? That's resonance. So I have identified, let me move this over here. I have identified 7 elements of resonance, and they are character, questions, movement, immersion, essentialism, prose and poetry, and message. And here is how they are all defined. Let me make my picture a little smaller. So character is just a compelling character that behaves in an authentic and human way. Questions are curiosities and circumstances that create open loops and make the reader lean in and say, what happens next? Movement is something that happens in real time. We also in the writing world call this scene or narrative. It's when you're actually describing something with a play-by-play. Immersion, these are the sensory details and settings. It's helping you and the reader have a sense of time, place, sights, smells, and sounds. So this is description. This is, the sky isn't just blue. You're describing something. Essentialism, this is when only the essential details remain, right? Anything that doesn't move the story forward or contribute to character or question has got to go. So this is where we get that saying, kill your darlings, right? We don't want to be too indulgent as writers. Prose and poetry means you have strong and well-formed sentences and paragraphs, meaning that, you're not necessarily a grammar fanatic, but you are following the rules of grammar and breaking them when appropriate, right? Or breaking them for a reason. Words matter. And then finally, message. The story reveals a deeper universal truth or value. The story creates meaning deeper than the external narrative, right? Let's keep going. All right. Step number 3 for powerful revision and self-critique is to practice powerful passing. And so I know I'm probably making you hungry with this beautiful layer cake, and we're going to talk about that in a second. So when you are writing a story or particularly revising a story, you want to go one layer at a time. And so I love to think of it as a layer cake. You're building a layer cake. And so when you're baking a cake, you don't just throw all the ingredients, the frosting, the coloring, and everything, the flour, all into one pot and put it in the oven. No, because then you just get a brown blob and it doesn't have any resonance at all, right? You want to focus on one layer of the cake at a time. And it's the same as writing a story. So when we're writing a story, we want to have all these beautiful layers working together in a symphony, right? And so that is why it's really important to focus on one pass at a time. And I love this quote from Alexander Graham Bell. He says, concentrate all your thoughts upon the work at hand. The sun's rays do not burn until brought to a focus. So that is the essential reason we want to focus on one layer at a time. And so how do we do that? And I say you do it by passing, practicing powerful passing. So I define passing as choosing one element of resonance to focus on per pass, per read and revision. And so these are our elements of resonance. You're going to focus on every time you open up your chapter or your book or your excerpt or your article, your story, you're going to focus on one element of resonance at a time. All right, so here is what that looks like. So pass number 1, because our first element of resonance is character, we're going to start with character. And I recommend doing this in small chunks. So you could do a chapter or you could do 500 words. Just start small because that's how you're going to reduce overwhelm. So pass number 1, I read and assess, I read and assess chapter 1, and I read and assess specifically looking for character. So I get out my I revise with a purple pen or a blue pen. So you can see my blue pen here. I'm not a fan of the red pen. So reading with my blue or purple pen, and I'm marking everything up that relates to good character development. And then when I've done that for 30 minutes, I revise and rewrite for an hour, right? I actually get in there, get dirty, start moving things around and revise. And that's pass number 1. Then pass number 2, I'm going to focus on questions, right? We talked about the importance of questions too. I'm reading and assessing with, are there juicy questions in here? Is the character's goal really defined? And then revising and rewriting after I've marked everything up with my blue or purple pen. And so you can see how this works here. Pass number 3, movement. Pass number 4, immersion. And then you would go all the way from there. Essentialism, poetry and prose, message. And then you would do that until you feel that your writing is really solid. And again, you want to do this in small, small chunks, one focus at a time. All right, so this can, especially if you're working on a novel, it can still feel really overwhelming. You're like, Renee, I have to do how many passes? The thing is, this is a marathon, not a sprint. And so what you can do to reduce that overwhelm is set very smart goals. Be specific, be measurable, achievable, realistic, and give yourself a deadline. Give yourself a time boundary. And then, like I was saying before, practice your passes on small chunks and get that small chunk really solid, move on to the next chunk. And you can really make it your own. You can do a reading and assessing pass for the entire book, and then go back and do a reading and assessing pass for the entire book for character or questions or wherever, and then go back and actually do the revising, so you can do it in any order you want. The really key takeaway here is to focus on one element of resonance at a time. And overwhelm is truly a choice. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, make it smaller. Make your to-do smaller. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by revising 500 words or a full chapter, make it 200 words. I'm going to revise a paragraph today, right? And do the passing technique on one paragraph. So the smaller you can go, the less overwhelmed you're going to feel, right? And it may feel like it'll take you longer, but again, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So don't worry about how long it's going to take you. Just get started, because time, as you can probably tell in at least 2020 when I'm filming this, time is really, really flying by, and you're never going to believe how much you can get done even when you're working in small, manageable chunks. All right. So this, everything I just shared with you is a really solid plan for revising and self-critiquing your work. And so with every good plan has an element of flexibility, right? So what you want to do is you want to be like a palm tree. Whoops. Let's go back there to my palm tree. So I used to live in Florida, and I actually live in California right now. And so I've been surrounded and living with palm trees for a long time. And I just love palm trees. And I'll tell you why. If you notice, they're very focused trees. So they don't have a lot of branches shooting out over here like oak trees or maple trees. All of their branches and their leaves are concentrated at the very top. And this is because they know that branches and all these other distractions will knock them down in a hurricane, right? In Florida, we get really, really intense hurricanes, as I'm sure you know. And so what do palm trees do? They have to bend. And the other thing is that palm trees have really, really strong yet flexible root systems. Their root systems are so, so strong, and that's so they can handle winds of 100 miles an hour, 200 miles an hour, maybe even 300 miles an hour, because their roots are like indestructible yet bendy at the same time. So be like a palm tree. Plant your strong roots by following a plan, which I just outlined for you in this video. Focus your energy on one thing at a time, like our palm trees with their branches at the top. They don't have a lot of shoots and arrows going off in different places. and then bend when things get stormy, because they will. That's life, and that's okay. So plant your roots, focus on one thing at a time at the top, and bend when the wind kicks up. All right, so the biggest mistake that I see writers make is that they only rely on themselves for self-critique. And so everything I just shared with you is a fantastic resource for self-critiquing, but that only gets you so far. And you do want your work to be the best it can within your own capabilities, but eventually you're gonna hit a ceiling of what you can assess and critique yourself, right? You need other experts looking at your work and giving you feedback. And so there comes a point where you can no longer self-assess your work. And this is normal and accepted, and an accepted truth within the writing community. You will not find a best-selling writer or a writer in history who did not have an editor or a coach or a critique group that they worked with to get feedback on their work. So the biggest mistake you can make is to try to write entirely in a vacuum and try to submit your work for publication without ever getting outside feedback. I told you I've been an editor for a really long time, and that's the biggest mistake I see, is that I can tell that somebody did not get extra feedback on their work and just tried to revise it all on their own. So here's Daniel Kahneman. He's one of my favorite authors, and he's also a renowned psychologist and economist. And he says, true intuitive expertise is learned from prolonged experience with good feedback on mistakes. Okay, so now that you have all these practical strategies to self-critique your own work and reach out to get critical feedback, I have 2 action items to help you turn the knowledge you gained into this video and really embed it deep into your brain and your body so you can make your writing even better and even stronger. So number 1, I would love for you to share this blog post and video with a writing buddy, because when you can talk about and share different pieces of knowledge with folks in your community, you actually, you're able to learn it on an even deeper level, and you're able to build deeper relationships with the people you care about, right? Isn't that amazing? Number 2, go ahead and come back to this blog post and comment below and tell me, how will you use what you learned today in this video to self-critique your own work and reach out and get critical feedback? What's your plan? What's your strategy? Let me know below. And if you have any questions, you can ask them there too. I am here to help you and keep cheering you on. So get out there, write your soul's story, give yourself a self-critique, reach out for feedback, and get it published, or just get that sense of satisfaction from doing something challenging, from completing something you start. I believe in you. I'm rooting for you the whole way. Get out there and write.